So, we had probably one of the most devastating events happen in comic book pop culture history. The man, the myth, the legend, the father of many of our greatest superhero franchises has finally left our world and passed on into the nebula. Mr. Stan Lee.
That has passed away. 95 years old.
That is a life well lived.
Thank you. Well lived. That's why I'm not really. I'm bummed, but I'm not sad.
I'm not sad. It's not like he was killed.
Yeah, it should be a celebration of this guy.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy that really revolutionized comics. Mm-hmm. You know, with his idea to kind of make characters more, I guess you could say, more relatable in a way.
Yeah.
The way they got their powers are more, I think, more science based. Mm-hmm. Because in the 60s, he created characters like, of course, Spider-Man.
Well, co-created.
And co-created.
Let's give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic Four.
Iron Man.
X-Men.
Yeah. The Hulk.
He invented my favorite Marvel character, Angel. Archangel. He was because he was one of the members of the original X-Men. But yeah, and he started a franchise. He started a label that is ironclad, and he also, in a way too, I think he also really influenced DC. You know, I respect him because you never got the feeling that when he made Marvel that his goal was, I'm going to put DC out of business or anything like that. You know, he was never like that. He was just trying to build his own thing. And you kind of felt
I'm sure he had huge respect for Superman and
Batman. Yeah, and DC kind of followed suit. They kind of changed their characters up and made them more personable.
And how they did crossovers.
And they did crossovers. But yeah, Stan Lee was just such an influence on the way comics books was done, and it just felt like he just felt like someone that you would like to hang out with. You know, he just felt like
you could have hung out with him.
Yeah,
but yeah, but I totally agree. Like, I'm not sad about his death. In fact, it's really weird. It's like glory in a sense. Like, you raise your cup to the man. Like, you're happy for him. Like, you don't even feel bad. It's because 95, he lived a life well lived. He made the most out of his life. He had a family. He had a wife who passed on a long time before he did. And he built a universe for everybody to love and enjoy.
Yeah. And now I know we're huge in DC. You guys know that, but that doesn't mean we hate Marvel. We've never hated Marvel. You know, we've always been. I've always been fan. Like, I've always been an X-Men and a Spider-Man fan.
And whenever they make a new Spider-Man film, hurry up, bitch, let's go.
Yeah. I've always been.
Spider-Man's in Civil War? Oh, I'm there.
Yeah. So, you know, I've never been a fan of this whole DC Marvel rivalry. You know, I think.
Thanks, Joe Quesada.
Yeah, I think it's stupid. But, you know, Stan Lee is just a guy that everyone loved and respected. I know there's been stories about his past, and you know, if maybe
like even after his death, like there were a lot of people like coming out like, I'm glad he's dead. He was a so and such and such and such, and like, really?
Yeah. What?
Clickbait much?
Yeah. But to me, when you influence an entire genre and you change it, you know, you couldn't ask for anything more. You know, I've always there was once a saying that if you can't be like, the best thing you can do for your fellow mankind is be a doctor and cure some incurable disease. The second best thing is being an entertainer. Mm-hmm. And he entertained a lot of people.
He gave the world characters that people around the world know in countries you've never heard of.
And he stood up for it, too. He was the guy, like, back in the 50s, they had, like, the comics code where they were, like, really strict in censorship. Mm-hmm. Well, Stan Lee, by request...
You couldn't have zombies back in the day.
Yeah, by request, someone asked him to do a Spider-Man comic that was anti-drug. And he didn't know anything about drugs or anything, but he made a story where this guy was hooked on drugs and Spider-Man saved him. It had a strong positive message. They wouldn't let him do it because it was against the code. he thought that was so ridiculous. And well, just take the stupid code label off. We'll just sell them anyway. So and that kind of ended up really changing that. They kind of broke free from that, code thing, and that kind of allowed for more creativity, because that was strangling creativity back in the day.
It really was. You couldn't have zombies in your title.
Yeah. Tales of the Crypt, all that stuff kind of went to the wayside, So, and of course, Stan Lee was well known for all of his cameos. I find it ironic but kind of wonderful that his last cameo in a movie was in Teen Titans Go.
Really?
Yeah, he was in it. His last official cameo, I guess, was with the Spider-Man PS4.
And you know what? How perfect was that for his cameo in Spider-Man for the PS4 to be looking at Mary Jane and Peter Parker and just saying, "You two were always my favorites."
Right.
And it's just like, isn't that the most perfect outing?
Yeah. I know he wanted to have a cameo in like Batman v Superman, and I wish he did. I would have loved to see him and Henry Cavill having a moment together. I think that Superman is an okay guy. He's just trying to do the best he can. Yeah, I agree.
I would have loved that. Honestly, my biggest disappointment out of all of this is I thought that with the Brotherhood of Gaming, we would have gotten further than we are, to the point where we could have attended these conventions more easily.
Yeah, he had a convention down in LA. I think he would attend like once a year. I think.
Yeah, because I would have loved the chance to have met him and had a picture. That way, like after he was gone, I could have had something to show off and be like, "Hey, I met the man."
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it just never happened, and now it never will.
Yeah.
So
he wanted to do a Superman comic book once upon a time, I think. I might be wrong, but I think he wanted to. But I think a Stan Lee doing a Superman comic would have been great.
It would have been fun.
Yeah, a lot of characters were changed and grew. You could say that X-Men really became the X-Men because of Chris Claremont. You could say that Daredevil became Daredevil because of Frank Miller. But those characters were started by Stan Lee. Mm-hmm. He kind of started that big sandbox that all these people got to play with and reinvent their characters.
Yeah, and of course, you got to give it up for a lot of the respect the fans have. Like I've seen so many tribute artwork pieces to Stan Lee over the past few days. Like one of the saddest ones was I saw a picture somebody made where Stan Lee was sitting at his desk, like writing like an X comic, and then his arm started fading, like in the new Avengers. Like
I don't feel so good.
I'm just like, oh man. And then like as he was fading, he just put the pen down in front of the paper, like passing it along, like it's time for the next person to start writing.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's sad.
Yeah. So from us here at the Brotherhood of Gaming, thank you, Stan Lee. You had a great life, and your influence will last forever. As long as there's comic books, there'll always be Stan Lee's presence there.
And of course, whenever I play the Spider-Man game on the PS1, I'll always remember the famous cheat code, EelNats, your name spelled backwards that unlocked everything.
Nice.